I want to say I remember the judge's face changing. People ask me that. What did she look like in that second? And I tell them I don't actually know. I was looking at the clerk's hands on the keyboard. That's the detail that stayed, not triumph. Just fingers on plastic keys, and a small mechanical click that meant something had been entered into a record and could not, now, be taken back out. I'm getting ahead of the file. Let me lay it out in order, the way I had to for the court, because order is the only thing that makes any of it make sense. My Aunt Deborah raised me for 4 years in my 20s, not because anything dramatic happened to my parents, but because I needed somewhere to be while I figured out what my life was for, and she needed someone to remember her pills. That's the whole arrangement, stated plainly. I filled a weekly organizer. I called the pharmacy when the insurance rejected a refill. I sat in waiting rooms with paperback novels I never finished. None of this was noble. It was Tuesday, and then it was Wednesday, and eventually it was 4 years. My cousin Renata visited twice in that span, both times for Thanksgiving. My parents visited on her birthday when it was convenient, and called it involvement. I'm not telling you this to build a case for sympathy. I'm telling you because the court needed a timeline, and a timeline is a cold thing. It doesn't care how tired I was. It only cares what happened and when. Deborah declined the way people decline when a body has simply run its allotted time. Not a single dramatic collapse, but a long series of smaller ones, each one absorbed into logistics before I had a chance to feel it. A hospital stay became a list of things to pack. A diagnosis became a spreadsheet of appointments. I noticed even then that I was better at administrating grief than having it. I still don't know if that's a flaw or a mercy. Probably both. She died in March. I remember the paperwork more clearly than the funeral. The will reading was unremarkable. The house, some savings, divided the way you'd expect a family to divide things, when no one is paying close attention. Evenly, vaguely, with everyone assuming the goodwill would hold. It didn't. Renata contested almost immediately, arguing undue influence, arguing that I had positioned myself, that 4 years of pill organizers and pharmacy calls had been a long con for a 2-bedroom house in a declining suburb. My parents did not defend me. They also did not accuse me. They did something worse, which was nothing. They sat in the gallery like people watching weather roll in, waiting to see which way it would break before committing to a side. The hearing itself took 3 sessions to schedule, and 11 minutes to nearly end. Renata was good at rooms. She always had been. The kind of person whose confidence reads as competence, until you've watched her fail at something small and private. She leaned toward me at the defendant's table, close enough that only I could hear it clearly, and said I should enjoy my homeless life. A few people near us laughed, the short, involuntary kind of laugh that isn't really about humor, just release. My parents didn't stop her. They watched the way you watch something you've already decided the outcome of. I want to be honest about what I felt in that moment, because it isn't what people expect. I didn't feel rage. I felt very far away, like I was reading a transcript of my own life instead of living it. I had already, somewhere in the previous 4 years, stopped needing them to defend me. That happened quietly, without an argument, the way water leaves a glass through evaporation instead of a crack. I only understood it fully in that courtroom, watching my mother's face do nothing. The judge called for the estate file. This is the part people want dramatized, and I understand why, but the truth is procedural and small. I didn't stand. I didn't raise my voice. I slid one document across the table, an amendment Deborah had filed 8 months before her death, notarized, witnessed, entirely her own initiative, naming the terms of the house explicitly in the event of a dispute. I hadn't known about it until her attorney produced it during discovery. I want to be clear about that because the version of this story where I orchestrated it is more satisfying, and also not true. She did that herself, quietly, the way she did most things. Please add this, I said. 4 words. Not a speech. The clerk entered it. That click I mentioned. The judge read it, and there was a pause that the room felt more than heard. The specific silence of a room recalibrating what it thought it knew. She asked a clarifying question of the estate attorney. He confirmed the notarization, the witnesses, the date. She said the amendment stood, that it preempted the earlier ambiguity, and that the matter of the house was settled in accordance with it. I don't remember Renata's face. I've tried. I remember the clerk's hands. I remember that my mother reached for her purse, like the hearing had already become something to leave, not something to have witnessed. That's the part no one wants to hear when they ask about the case. That winning it didn't produce a scene. Nobody cried. Nobody apologized. The gavel, if there was one, made no more impression on me than a door closing in another room. I drove home. I remember being surprised by how ordinary the drive was, how the light hit the same intersections it always had. I have the house now. I'm sitting in it as I write this. Months later, in Deborah's kitchen, at a table she bought sometime in the 90s, and never replaced because she said new furniture was for people trying to prove something. I don't feel triumphant. I feel like someone who has finished a long piece of paperwork and is now facing the actual size of the room she's inherited. My parents haven't called. Renata hasn't either, though I've heard, through the kind of family channel that survives even total estrangement, that she tells people I manipulated a dying woman. I used to want to correct that record. I've stopped wanting that. Correcting it would require an audience that still matters to me, and I'm not sure one does anymore. What I have is a house with good light in the mornings, and a family I no longer expect anything from. I don't know yet if that's a loss or just an accurate accounting, finally, of what was always true. Some nights I think it's both. The paperwork is finished. The rest of it, whatever this is, doesn't come with a clerk to click it into the record. I'm still waiting to find out what it becomes.